Life. I'm Dean Wilson. I'm so glad you're with us. I looked this morning at the analytics for our goodlifetelevision.org. 101 countries. We just crossed 100 countries. So wherever you are in the world, we welcome you. We're talking about the good stuff here. We're dwelling on the good stuff. We're talking to good people. It's been a phenomenal journey, and we're so glad you're with us. If you're local here in Santa Barbara, California, where we're sitting, you can watch us on TV Santa Barbara locally. It's on during the week. You can find those listings, but wherever you are, we welcome you, and it's so great to be with you again. I'm so excited about my guest today. Jonathan Madajian, did I say that right? Got it. Is with me. Jonathan is an engineer and a movie maker and a really interesting guy. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm honored to be on this show amongst all the host of interesting folks that you've brought on board.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, it's reading about you, I have to say, was one of the more interesting research projects I've done for this show. You have a really interesting background, and you know a lot of stuff that I know nothing about. So we have that to work through. But I want to start with your background. Just kind of, you grew up here in Santa Barbara, but tell us a little bit about your background, your family, your faith.
So I was born into a Christian family. Not only that, but my extended family are believers, and my heritage is from Armenia, which is famous for being the first Christian country. So deep heritage in the faith. I had several life goals as a kid. I wanted to become an Eagle Scout. I wanted an engineering degree. I wanted to make faith-based movies. Wanted to find a wife, and wanted to do something so significant that it would create a Lego set would be made about it. Just
really?
Yeah.
Well, I think we checked off a couple of those.
Yeah.
But you're young.
Yep.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So you really thought through your life.
Mm-hmm.
You thought through what you wanted this life to be.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
And the way that it's all transpired has been completely driven by God. Like, faith has been the thread that weaves through all of those.
Yeah. God is good, isn't he?
All the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I found that.
Mm-hmm.
So talk about how you got into this combination. You're actually somebody who has two resumes. You have I could barely fill out one, but you've got an engineering resume, and then you have a movie making resume. Mm-hmm. Start on the engineering side.
Okay.
You all think differently than the average person, I think. Mm-hmm. But talk about being an engineer. Was that something of interest to you early on?
Mm-hmm. So when I was finishing up high school, I didn't know whether I wanted to go to college for engineering or filmmaking, because I had a passion for both. Uh-huh. And I picked engineering just because it's a bit more financially stable. Mm-hmm. And when I applied to different engineering schools, I didn't know which type of engineer I wanted to be. So each school, I just picked the school's top program. Okay. That way, if I got in the school, I'd be in the good program.
I see.
It turns out that the only school that accepted me was UCSB. And the major I picked there was electrical engineering, which happens to be my father's profession.
Oh, really?
So I ended up studying my father's profession in my hometown. And yeah, that's how I ended up down that road.
Can you answer this for me? Because
go for it.
Just pretend like I don't know anything, which is pretty close to true. What does an electrical engineer actually do?
So before I answer that question, I'll address something, which is that you've brought up twice now that you don't know things that I do. But the truth of the matter is that's the case with every human being we meet. We all know things that other people don't. And that's why I take a posture of learning whenever I meet a new person, because we all know stuff that other people don't. And every person you meet, socioeconomic status, race, doesn't matter. They know something you don't.
That's a brilliant point. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can learn from everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what does an electrical engineer do?
So electrical engineers, they do things like they'll design smartphones. That's a simple one. But they'll also design the networks behind the smartphone that make it work. They'll develop the motors in cars or the electrical grid. They'll develop communications protocols that go onto all of those platforms. It's a wide field with a lot of applications. Some electrical engineers bleed into computers, and they'll do some computer stuff. Some lean more towards the hardware, and they'll build physical, actual things you can touch. Some of them will make computer chips from the ground up. Others will take those computer chips and do things with them. It's an entire field unto itself.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Some of the really interesting people that I've met here are, like you said, we can learn something from everybody, and I have, and it's been really a joy. But folks with really sharp minds and tender hearts, that combination, which I think we've been together about 5 minutes, but I can kind of see that. Like, you have a joy, you have a tender heart, but you have a sharp mind. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in your life. I may sound like your mother, but that's fine. That's fine.
Well, I appreciate the compliments, Dean. Thank you.
Okay, let's talk about movie making.
Okay.
And some of the things you've done. You had an interest in doing that, you said, before school. But how did you start with movie making, and where are you now?
So I was a part of church plays for quite a bit. So I had some acting background, and I was going to a church where I knew I was not going to mesh well with the junior high ministry there, and I was looking for something else to do. And the director of the kids' plays offered for me to help him out in the video production room. And so I started getting experience doing live events, and camera work, live editing, and then eventually directing. And one day he invites me to help him out with a movie that he's making. And my first day on a movie set was one of the best days of my life. I was just like, I don't know what this is, but this is it.
Wow.
Just like the people running around, the lights, the food, just like the whole thing. And so I've been chasing that ever since.
And can you tell us some of because for me to try to describe some of what you've done, these space lasers, and can you describe kind of some of what your role has been on some of these sets and interesting projects?
Yeah, so in interesting ways, it sort of tended to bleed over. In school, with the electrical engineering program, I emphasized in a specialty called photonics, which, okay, brief physics lesson here. You've probably heard that light is both a wave and a particle, right?
Sure.
It's both at the same time, which is pretty fun. The study of the wave properties of light is called optics. So that's like glasses and camera lenses and stuff like that.
Okay.
The study of the particle properties of light is called photonics. And that's things like lasers and stuff like that.
Okay.
So, yeah, UCSB is a research institution. And so rather than just take classes, I wanted to get involved in some of the exciting research that's happening there. And so I started working as a volunteer in a physics lab. And we were looking at using space lasers to defend the planet from asteroids. And
really?
Yep.
That's a thing.
That's a thing. Well, it's a physics lab, so we were basically running the math to prove that it could be a thing. We hadn't actually built the space laser yet, but we were proving that it could be possible.
Wow. So that's what you worked on there.
Yep.
And then how did this translate into, like, I read something about you were doing a project where the goal was to make somebody in water like invisible to a great white shark.
Yep.
Is this right?
Correct. So from that space laser project, I ended up meeting all sorts of people. I got to go to Japan and to a conference there, got to present my work in San Diego. And one of the things is we went to SpaceX because we were looking at having them launch some of our tests. While I was there, I met this gentleman who's a magician and a host of other fascinating people. This guy who's starting a Mars theme park in China, a gal who's doing a science themed film festival. And as I'm explaining our space laser research, this magician understands what I'm talking about. And I thought, that's strange. Turns out he'd read the research that my professor had put out and knew about our project. So he and I formed a long-term friendship. And where that friendship ended up is he pitched Discovery Channel this idea of making an invisibility suit and doing a magic trick for sharks. And I helped him build the suit. We went out to Vegas and shot a bunch of stuff for it. And then he invited me to come with him to the Bahamas to film the actual stuff with the sharks, and then later to the Isle of Jaws. But rather than have all those adventures, I decided to finish my engineering degree and graduate.
Okay. But they're doing it.
They did it. We filmed the show. It's out and available. It was on Shark Week, I believe the year 2020.
Wow.
Yep.
And it worked.
So the first, well, I won't spoil this show.
Okay.
So
it's Discovery Channel?
yeah, Discovery Channel Shark Week.
Shark Week.
Yep. And the show is called Andrew Main Ghost Diver.
Andrew Main Ghost Diver.
Yeah.
If people want to watch that.
Yep.
Wow. I mean, how do you test that? Like, you really want to make sure it works if you're dealing with a great white shark.
So he got in a shark cage, went underwater with the camera guy. They dumped a bunch of chum over the side of the boat. And yeah, he's in the water with sharks.
And you get to see that.
And you get to see that.
Wow. This is interesting. So you're very interesting. You know, what is the study of light? Photonics? Is that what you...
Photonics. Yeah.
Photonics is the study of light waves.
Light particles.
Particles.
Yeah.
See, I had one shot. I got it wrong. Light is a fascinating thing.
Mm-hmm.
You've studied light.
Mm-hmm.
I just, when I think about God and I think about let there be light and the ramifications of light, what light, all the things it can do, like it's a disinfectant, it brings clarity. Light's an interesting thing, isn't it? I'm just saying this. I don't know where we're going with this, but...
Well, I mean, in short, yes. It's... and I think there's also great power in the words that were spoken, right? And the words that we speak.
Yes.
Right? Because you can bring light to someone's life with the words that you speak.
Yes.
You can also bring down darkness and curses.
Right. The power of the tongue.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that's one of the reasons we're here, is we want to talk about the good things, the redemption, the overcoming, the the goodness.
Yeah.
Everywhere I look now in the Bible, now that we have started a show called Good Life, everywhere I look in the Bible, I see the word good. The other day I'm in Titus 1:8. It's talking about qualifications for elders, and it says they need to be they need to love what is good. And I thought that's an interesting thing, that would be in there. Goodness, dwelling on the good. But yeah, you're right. The spoken word is so powerful. Speaking life, you understand that. I think that's wonderful. What when you look forward? I mean, you've got a whole plan here. I've heard, but talk about kind of your vision for now, going from here. Where do you go from here with some of the experience you've gotten, some of the education you've gotten, your passions? Talk about kind of your vision for what you think God's calling you to do.
So I don't typically share this, mainly because it's so ludicrous. But the next step really would be to start a film studio. I've already got a production company, and I've been doing this sort of stuff for a long time. And it's sort of a big thing to just kind of say like that.
But you got to speak it. Remember?
Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah. So a film studio.
Yeah.
You like to do that?
Yeah.
Wow. And what specific aspect of film would you be interested in?
So definitely the producing side. That's my strong suit. Part of why I have a full-on resume is because I've been trying to pick up on all the different departments.
Right.
And so I've done sound, I've done lighting, I've done camera, and I love all of it. But it's to position myself so that I can be a strong producer.
Huh. And what's the step? How does one do that?
So there's three ways. Way number one is work your way up the Hollywood ladder. I was not particularly interested in kissing up to a bunch of corporate type stuff, especially with the trends that are currently in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Way number two is make your own like small budget stuff and try and make it big. And way number three is just become independently wealthy and do whatever you want. And so I chose path number three, hence the engineering job, so that I can finance the filmmaking.
So you're going to work as an engineer kind of as your day job while you pursue some of these other bigger dreams.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Are you going to stay local? You going to stay here, do you think?
I'm going to stay wherever God calls me.
Yeah, good. For now, you're here.
For now, he's been really explicit that I should be here, so I'm here.
That's fantastic. Well, we're going to have to stay in touch with you. I'd love to track kind of what happens here, because it seems, I mean, I'll believe the film studio with you. I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Well, because what's incredible is what my life plan just got accelerated this summer. Like, about the span of what I was expecting to take 25 years has happened in the last 3 months.
Really?
And so that's why.
Which part?
Well, the part where I'm making faith-based films, because the plan was that I was just going to make a couple little small projects and gradually grow into something bigger. But the film I'm working on right now turned from a $30,000 movie into a $250,000 movie. We got a couple name actors involved. It just grew into a much bigger project.
Really?
And the whole thing has got Jesus written all over it.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
You kind of look like Jesus in some of the depictions I've got, doesn't he? A little bit. Do you know Ryan O'Quinn or Kirk Cameron?
I know of them.
Okay, they've both been here. They may be good guys to connect with. They've got. I think they share your heart. But anyway, for what it's worth.
I appreciate that.
Thanks for coming. This is fascinating. You're a fascinating guy. Wish you well. We'll have to stay and kind of track what happens from here. Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
See you next time.